morning, everyone. It's great to see everyone back. Thanks for turning up and coming back today. Fantastic. You showed up. That's great. Okay. We're going to start with the acknowledgement. So Emmanuel College acknowledges that the land on which we learn, create and grow is the traditional land of the Peek Wurrong people of the Gundjip Ma Nation, who have educated their children in their language and spirituality and in the traditions of their culture for many thousands of years. We also acknowledge and respect the cultural diversity of students, families and staff represented in Emmanuel College community in the past, present and future. We support the principles of a reconciled Australia for all its people in the interests of our children, tomorrow's leaders. We'll get rid of that one pretty quickly. Okay, so this morning I thought I'd do something a little bit different, and people that know me probably know that I wear my heart a little bit on my sleeve, and relationships are really important to me. I did ask Nat's permission and Sos to put that photo up. I didn't get around to Em, but Em's probably okay with that as well. So what I wanted to focus on, just to start with, is a little reflection about love who you teach, but love who you teach more, and building those positive connections. So we say in our lives every day we love lots of things. We talk about, I love to go for a walk along the beach, or I love playing golf, or I love playing basketball, or I love holidays. I bet we all say that. So we use that term a lot in our everyday lives. And in our job, to be effective teachers, we have to love what we teach. But more importantly, love who we teach. The reality is, to be an effective teacher, I'm going to read a little bit here, sorry. To be an effective teacher, you should enjoy what you teach, but always love who you teach. Now, that doesn't mean that you'll love every student. In fact, you will have some students who will get on your last nerve and drive you crazy. Hopefully that wasn't Soph that drove people crazy. They probably Nat, she probably did. But that doesn't mean you don't love them as a human or want the very best for them. In fact, those are the ones who need love the most. I was trying to think about how long I've been teaching, but I think it's been over 25 years in education. It feels a lot longer. And I've found that students that I didn't connect with were usually the ones who acted out and tried to get attention in unhealthy ways, like disrupting a class. Therefore, I learned very early on that we need to make these connections and build the relationships. So I began to focus on building relationships with my students. Throughout the years, this has helped alleviate many behavioural issues in the classroom. And when we develop rapport with students, there really isn't a better job in the world, and I hope you'd all agree with that. When you go home at the end of the day, what do you think about? It's probably a student or a colleague that's made you laugh or smile. When I think about my years of teaching, I do enjoy teaching PE, but I love teaching the kids more. They are the reason we're all here. To work with students and get to know them and help them throughout the year, to me, is just the best. Each day I see staff here at this school going above and beyond, and the care and love I see is everywhere. As a parent, that has been fantastic for Michael and I to see that over the years. All the staff that have helped our Soph get to where she is has been amazing. So I know it's a little bit personal, but I want to thank all of you for that. I called it Team Sophie, and you all got her through. And today, she had a photo out the front. She had a photo every year out the front of our house. Today, it was in a nice dress. And she's gone off to St. Joey's this morning to start her traineeship down there. So that love that we see is so important. I think it's a really special job that we do, and we're very lucky to be in this job. And I think when we all hang up our boots at whatever time that might be for you and we walk out, you're really going to remember the students you taught and the people you worked with. I've got a little prayer here to go with that. So we're saying the Father, Son, the Holy Spirit, Amen. Dear God, we pray for your blessings today, our teachers, our students, our school. Please allow your light to shine on them throughout the year. Be gracious to them, Lord. Fill them with your spirit and light and give them peace in every circumstance. We know that every gift and blessing comes straight from your hand. We we will not take it for granted. Remind us today of great love and care of all those we love. May each purpose and plan you have for our teachers succeed, flourish and prosper in every way. Amen. Saint Joseph, pray for us. May the spirit of Catherine McCauley and Edmund Rice guide us all that we do. Amen. In the name of the Father, Son and Holy Spirit. Amen. Okay, so basically throughout the couple of slides I've got, I do focus on the students, obviously, and our direction that we're moving forward in. I'm not going to read that. You can read that. That's an overarching point that we have for wellbeing as part of our strategic planning. And we hope to achieve those things over the next 5 years or so, isn't it, Peter, to the next strategic plan? 6 years, is it? Good, got a bit of time. A couple of our goals from our pastoral care team. We had a meeting on Friday and I've just summarised some of the things that we spoke about, and in bold are the 3 key things that came up. So we split off into junior, middle and senior school, and people wrote down some goals, and there was a consistent or a common approach to all the goals. And so consistency was one, and Peter spoke about that on Friday, and I think Justin's also going to speak about that, and Simone. And consistency around student expectations and shared responsibility. Positive relationships, I've already spoken about relationships and our love of our students, and building connections, and then student voice and leadership, looking for opportunities for our students to be involved in decision making and part of our classes and our wider community. There's been a few changes in the pastoral care team, so I thought I'd put that up there for you to see. Our junior school, obviously, director of junior school is Karen. Everyone knows Karen, so we won't get her to wave. David, you would have seen on Friday. I don't know where Dave is, but he'll be here somewhere. And he's going to be supported by Dan. Karina is at year 8, and we welcome Abby to the team. She will be supporting Karina. Year 9, Glenn and Ben and Paul, so a new look team there to Team Rice. And then senior school, director of senior school, Shane continues in that role. And then we've got Ben, Egan House, Maguire, Renee Dyer is going to be replacing Sean in term 1. Ben Nelson for Rice House, sorry Ben. And Sophie Pekin will be head of Macaulay House. Part of our pastoral care team, we also have Leah, who does a fantastic job with student leadership, wellbeing coordinator Rach, and then the careers is and vet is Gladdy, and they really support our team really well also. I did forget to mention that there might be a couple of people that come in a little bit late, and that's because they're parents of preppies. So I know a few of them were nervous about walking in late. Just a few things to touch on. I'm trying to keep moving because I think I'm on a tight time frame here. Just with uniform, easiest thing to remember here is that the college logo should be on every piece of uniform. So ensuring students are wearing the correct uniform would be great. And if all staff can support us in that, that would be fantastic. Also hats on term 1 and term 4, and there's a college hat, and if any of you would like to buy one, that is available for you. It'd be great if we could see a few staff wearing them around also. They're a wide brim hat and really promote Sun Smart. Mobile phones, yard duty, I like to call that RBT, not roadside breath testing. Hopefully you're not going to be doing that out there, but relationship building time. And again, rather than I suppose relationship building time with a staff member is great too, but we really need to be spreading ourselves out, moving around, being visible, being active on yard duty, chatting with the kids. They do love that. They love it when you speak to them. Maybe not me and Peter, they probably run the other way, but once kids get to know us, Peter, we're not too bad, are we? So take that time to do a bit of RBT. It'd be great if we started to call it RBT and just sit at yard duty, wouldn't it? So being active on yard duty would be great. Mobile phones, same policy applies there. If you see a mobile phone out, then they're confiscated if they're out between 9 o'clock and 3:20. The kids are pretty good with that. we know probably some of them have got them in their pockets and they go and look at them in the toilets. Well, you don't need to follow someone into the toilet and chase them up. We do the best we can with that. Students are able to wear a smartwatch like I've got on, but again, if you can see they're doing this in there and they're texting on it and that sort of thing, then you have the conversation with them. You might take that watch off them for that lesson, have a conversation with them about it, and then give it back to them and go from there. If it's really causing a problem, just let us know. And then classroom expectations, again, if we can really continue with that positive behaviour that I know many of you are doing all the time, and using restorative practice to rebuild those relationships when things might go a little bit wrong. And the other thing I've also got there is to support one another. So if you are having problems with a student in a class, that you do reach out. There's lots of people here to support you with that. And we can work through whatever we need to. Positive relationships, so establishing and consolidating these connections. And it is evidence-based. We know if a student develops a really positive connection, then that means success for the student. And success for a student can be in lots of different ways. It's not just getting an A+. It might be the fact that they love coming to school or they love being in your class. A Year 12 student last year spoke about a PE class, and it wasn't mine, so it's either Shane or Michael's. But this student just said, I just love my class. I just love being in PE. So that's great. That's what we really want to achieve. So being student-centred, develop those connections with the students. Really important to spend a bit of time at the start of the year doing that. And you might all do that in various ways. You might have a little Google form that you ask some questions so you find out a little bit about the students. If you can find just one thing out about them that they enjoy doing, it might be that Oscar's been swimming all holidays. We know he has. He's a great swimmer. You might talk about that with him. Those sorts of things, making connections with the students. At the same time, it's really important just to check the student profiles for any learning, and I think Shimon might touch on that, any learning needs, wellbeing, and medical. And the medical is really important, and I'll speak about that a little bit later. You do make a big difference. Sometimes you might not know this. I'm sure a lot of you run into past students in the street, and they stop and talk to you. Again, that's those strong connections that they still have to Emmanuel and to you. Students will talk about you way after they've left here, and you may never hear that, but there might be something that you've done that's impacted on them. So unfortunately, we don't get to hear all of that, but it definitely does happen. And I spoke about the success for students. Just with student voice, our third sort of goal is to look for opportunities to involve students in decision making. We do have a student voice committee. We support the student leaders, but in your classes and in your year levels, if there's any opportunity to run like a house-based activity or something to give points for our house cup, please look for it because we really want to build up that house spirit. Staff wellbeing. So we have to get our wellbeing right first so that the kids can have a really positive experience. So wellbeing starts with ourselves. So we've got to take care of ourselves and create boundaries and do things that we enjoy doing. So trying to get that balance. Please reach out though if there is anything you need help with. That shared care approach is really important. And down the bottom, we've got our employee assistance program that's available for all staff. And you can see on that little infograph all the different areas that they can help you out with there. Building connections is really important. And thanks to Ben Walsh, who started the coffee club last year. He's going to continue it again this year in week A on a Friday, which is great. So for new staff, you're most welcome to come down anytime from about 8 o'clock on Friday mornings and grab a coffee and have a chat. There's people down there, just that little bit of time together with others as the day begins. So there's things like that you can get involved in. We have mercy moments on the other Friday, and I'll explain that in a little moment. Oh, sorry. Just one important thing there. Staff Association do a wonderful job in our school and there's a number of staff that are on that, but it's a small committee and they need some more help. So if there's anyone willing to help out, Jason sent an email around on Friday. So if you can take a look at that email, because we're asking people to sign up for the morning teas that for new staff, morning teas happen every fortnight. over in Gould, in Macaulay and down at Rice. So if you can sign up to one of those, your buddy will explain what you need to do with that. We do ask our new staff to sign up as well. I think hot chips is a favourite thing. So if you're a new staff member, you could get those. Maybe you'll be in like Flynn. So get involved in those things. I do really thank Jason and the team that do all the work in that space for us. And if you can help out, and Jace won't give you too many jobs, we'll spread it out. Just shoot him an email and say, yeah, I'd like to help out on Staff Association. That would be awesome. Mercy Moments will continue on Friday week B. For new staff, we do these each fortnight. We nominate staff under a different Mercy core value, which are all listed there, and then we'll have an online presentation. What we're going to do a little bit different this year is we're going to have a Catherine credit. And what that will mean is that we'll have everyone's name in a hat, and during that presentation, we'll draw a name out, and a Catherine credit will be, you can choose, but it could be a yard duty. Someone, probably myself or Peter or Michael or Justin, or Simone, will do your yard duty for you. So we'll take a yard duty off you, or there'll be a coffee voucher if you want that, or what was the other thing? A canteen voucher. So there is such a thing as a free lunch. So we'll draw that out once a fortnight, but you have to be online and there to claim your prize. So if we draw your name out and you're not there, now if you're part-timers, that's okay. We'll have that covered. We'll excuse you for that, and you will win. But if you are meant to be working that day and you're not there, no redraws or anything like that. It'll just be... couple of yard duties. Some people might do no yard duty. Okay, so wellbeing support for staff, I've outlined. Wellbeing support for students is really important also. So if you need support for a student in your homeroom or in your class, make sure that you have conversations with the student, their parent. Then you speak to the YLC or the head of house, other teachers, a wellbeing team member. So these are sort of the steps you're going to go through. And then if you feel you need more support, you can do a wellbeing referral, and that's a Google form that'll go off to the wellbeing team, and then they will follow up with that student. Trying to go fast, Cooler. Medical information, diabetes. So we have a number of students with diabetes in the school. And there's a short module that's a link on Simon, and you're encouraged to do level 2. That's right, Karen, isn't it? Level 2. You can do 1 and 2 if you want, but level 2 is the module we encourage you to do. So Karen might have been in contact with some people in junior school. There's a couple of girls in year 8, and obviously all the posters are on Simon there. So we do encourage you to do that if you've got a student with diabetes in your class. Other medical conditions are all listed, they're all on the posters on the side, but it's still also important to, the posters are on Simon, so they're all down here. We were saying the other day that door's not in a very good spot. What's going on, Hua? Okay, so really important, this medical information is down the side here, the posters, all the links are there, but don't just rely on that. You really should go to your learning areas, which is here. This will be Justin's, and then you go to your class. Oh, sorry. Members. Oh, Year 7 wasn't a great one to pick, was it? They haven't got their photos up there. But you can see all the icons, and across the top here it explains what each of those are. So any medical ones, that's the quickest way to look at it. Then you can click on the icon and it takes you to their medical information. So that's just a little quick way of doing it. We also have posters there on celiac, other medical conditions, epilepsy, anaphylaxis. We have a number of students that have anaphylaxis, so please be mindful of any food that's taken into a classroom. And even yourself, if you're having nuts and things like that, just making sure you're washing your hands after you've eaten them. If at recess and lunchtime, that sort of thing, it's really important. Some of our students are very sensitive to that. Operoo, you'll get information when you go on camps with a link there for medical information. It's a good idea to carry your mobile phone on you at yard duty, and obviously get some help from other staff if there are any medical emergencies. That's where all the DFibs are in the school and medical kits. We're looking to get a medical kit in the senior school office and down here in the stage, just so that there's a couple more locations down this end of the school. And individual student kits are at reception, so you must take them when you go on, sporting days, excursions and so on. They're all hanging up at reception here and down at Rice. One quick thing, if I could just ask homeroom teachers and mentors to do a quick Google form. I've tried to cut that down so it doesn't take you too long. It's basically go and stand in your mentor room and just tick off the things that are in there. Anything that's not in there, just let us know. It'll come through on the Google form and we'll try and get those posters and things organised for you. And if you can get that done by Wednesday or even earlier, that'd be awesome. Bus duty and student transport. So there's going to be a document shared in the year level team meetings. I've also shared with YLCs and heads of house a slideshow that they're going to show. So students are well and truly aware of where they can be picked up. We're trying to get students away from behind the Emmanuel Centre getting picked up there. That really needs just to be for our year 12s and our staff parking area. And that kids are only picked up at the Gould Centre loop or down at the stage, or they walk a bit further away. Just a reminder about some Japanese students starting with us on Tuesday, Julia, isn't it? On Tuesday. So they'll pop up in year 10 classrooms, so please make them most welcome. There's a day one planner for students on Simon, so you can check that out. Please be aware that there is a house meeting next week as well and a year 7 assembly. So just for your planning. And for year 9 staff, if I could just, anyone that's teaching on yard duty, if you could just stay after this meeting, we've got a short epilepsy briefing. There's a couple of students down there that we need to give medication for. We have a number of students on that suffer from epilepsy, but we only have 2 that we may have to give medication for, so we'll be focusing on them. That's it. Thank you.
And welcome back, particularly those staff that didn't work on a Friday. Peter said we don't go around with the clipboards, but I was just up the back checking on who was here. But, no, I wasn't really. I just decided to sit up the back. I'm just going to cover 3 slides really, really quickly, and we will be sharing this presentation out or putting it somewhere where you can read it again at your own leisure, but I didn't get to do this one on Friday. Professional learning, just a reminder about that for everybody that's sitting here today. There's those opportunities for you to complete and continually develop yourself as and your in the areas of curriculum or other roles that you might be involved in. Those requests really need to be well in advance, and I mean Jason's going to talk more about the leave and the process with EMS 360. But between camps and excursions, leave requests, everything else that goes on around the school, when somebody puts in a request for to go on a PD, and there's less than a week's notice, but it's some fantastic PD that I really need to go on. Well, that's not really doing us any favours around getting coverage for you and all of those sorts of things. And so 2 weeks prior, and you shouldn't be putting a PD request on EMS 360 without having already spoken to your faculty head or the person who's generally responsible for you to sort of say, this is something that I want to do, are you okay with it, so I can then put it on. Once it is approved, if it is something that's in Melbourne or Ballarat that's starting very early and does require you to travel, and perhaps rather than do that first thing in the morning and be very early, that you require accommodation, Lucille will book accommodation through for you, and that's done through the Macaulay campus office. Once again, we know that a lot of PD is online now, and that's great. It means that people don't have to travel. It often means that we can get one registration and others can come in and out of the room throughout the day to the different sessions, and that's the sort of PD we'd really encourage if you can get it, but sometimes you need to go to things face to face. Really, and again, the priority is for people teaching in new courses that they've never taught before, or perhaps a subject area that you're not really comfortable or familiar with. There's been a lot of new VCE study designs changing over, these are all the time, but a lot of the science ones have been changing, and so we're certainly giving priority to those staff at the moment. English, some pretty big changes going on at VCE English, so we gave a lot of time to our English staff late last year. If you're in a leadership position and you have to do things for compliance, those sorts of things are the priorities. I'll just quickly talk about the 3 days. We are allocating for everybody 3 whole staff professional learning days again, and they're on the calendar. You don't need to write them down, you'll find them there. But the 3 areas that we're focusing on for 2023, we'll have another learning diversity PD as we did last year, and that's really important. We know that all of us need to demonstrate, if we're audited by VIT, that we have done X amount of hours in professional learning in that particular area. So the team's already getting things organised for that PD day, which is the first day of term 2. First day of term 3, we didn't have any faith PD for all staff last year. We did have some Mercy Faith PD 2 years ago, so we need to get a little bit of that in for everybody this year, and then teaching and learning there after the midterm break. So 3 days there, that'll get everybody at least about 12 hours worth of PD. And then this document here just outlines, I guess, the other times where we're allocating time for you to do professional planning, curriculum work, collaboration time, meeting with your colleagues. Those PD days that we have, there'll always be the afternoons, sort of post 1 o'clock or 1:30 for you to do some professional planning or time allocated to complete your compliance modules, those sorts of things. We've got 2 assessment report writing days. We've got some time at the end of the year as well. We're doing something different with the professional learning communities this year, rather than putting them on the calendar and making everyone come to them compulsory. As Peter suggested the other day, 2 meetings per week is what we're trying to limit. But we've set aside a couple of occasions each term, 2 different days. And there's an expression of interest to conduct one of those. So many of you have got some fantastic knowledge and expertise in a range of areas. And if you'd like to provide that expertise and knowledge and get, it might only be a small group, 5 or 6 staff, you might run the session 2 nights in a row or back to back. You can fill out the expression of interest form. I won't go into more detail about that, but it picks up on what Simone and Justin are going to talk about today as well. And there are also opportunities for people, particularly if you're new to Mercy Education, to complete the online modules that Mercy Education put forward. So to get, again, some sort of accreditation hours for that, particularly for your RE accreditation, those sorts of things too. Okay, that's it about professional learning. Over to Simone.
Hi everybody, I'm going to talk to you today a little bit about data. So I got this question for you to start with. Why do you think it's important that teachers have data about literacy and numeracy ability of their students? Just have a think about that for a second. Why do you think it's important that you've got information about data? Okay, just put up an answer. Okay. Have a read of that answer. What mark would you give that answer out of 10? Do you reckon that's a good answer? Do you reckon it's a good answer or not? Reckon it's good? Here? Here? How are we feeling about it? I can see echoes of Hattie in there. I can see echoes of the HITS documentation. I can see echoes of some of the NAPLAN information that's given out to parents and is online. That was generated by Chat AI. Okay, last night it took me all of about 30 seconds to sign up for it. I put that question into it and it gave me that answer. That's just something for us to be aware of as educators, that is out there for students to access. In New South Wales it has been, I believe, totally banned, can't be used in schools. In South Australia, it's banned for assessments, and it's just something for us to be aware of as educators. what we're going to do around that. Okay? Okay. But moving on. NAPLAN. NAPLAN has moved. We're all aware that NAPLAN, which was in May, has moved to March. It's still year 7s and 9s. We will still at our school do it with homeroom groups. We're not moving everyone into the Emmanuel Centre or the Rice Centre Hall. They will do it in their homeroom groups because it is much calmer for them to be in their groups. It will probably be during homerooms or during group periods 1 and 2. It's usually scheduled early in the day because that's what NAPLAN requires, but we will let you know. And the test administration, NAPLAN loves acronyms and all the rest of it. That's the people who run the test, which will be a large proportion of you. That will, the training will be the week prior. It's important that we don't run NAPLAN down because it is important data for us and it is important data for our parents. And it's important that students do their best, and the year 9s, the ones that do well, they do get a certificate around achievement and around improvement. Okay, and if you've got any questions, email me. Okay, but that's a while off yet. Well, March isn't that far away at all. Okay, but what is earlier is PAT testing, because that's in week 2. Okay, so that's for the year 7s, 8s, 9s and 10s. And it's going to be completed in week 2. For the PAT R, that's the reading testing, that'll be during English communication class, so please set aside a period for that in your planning. And then for the PAT R, PAT M, that's the maths one, during a maths period. And if kids absent, we will catch them up. You don't need to set aside time for that. I'll work that out. They just need a charged laptop. They can have scrap paper and they can write stuff down during it. It's very important. They don't get extra time. If they're on a PLP and it says they get extra time, during PAT, they don't get it. Is that right, Gail?
That's right. Don't read the questions to them. Don't give them any help at all except how to get into the test.
Okay.
Otherwise, the data's meaningless.
And it's not one of, like NAPLAN, it times out. However long they've got for their test, it's programmed in. After 40 minutes, if they've got 40 minutes, it cuts them off. If it's 50 minutes for them, it cuts them off. PAT doesn't do that. You need to time their test and you need to cut them off. Okay, so it's really important that we run those properly. That data is really vital for us for flagging students for further assessments and for tracking them and making sure that they're getting the support that they need. Okay, and the instructions for that will be on staff messages and student messages. Any issues during the testing? Pete's going to look after that for us, which is fantastic. The accounts have all been set up. That's all ready to go. Okay, and this is the one I talk about every year. This is the one with the traffic lights for our students. This is the quick one to get into. Just quickly going over this again, the quick snapshot of how to access the NAPLAN and the PAT data on Simon. We go Simon homepage, we go over to that side, right side, we click the hamburger, curriculum, admin, data for student learning. You choose your class and it colour codes them. If they are red, if they come up as red, they need extra support. The Year 7 data's not there yet because they haven't done their test yet. That'll be available in week 3. There is much more data available through the PAT ACER website. I can give you access to that. Many of you have access to that already. Okay, and you can do that today. What I would really love you to focus on, please, though, is a much more powerful tool that we have access to now, and that's data analytics. It's had a few bugs for some people, but we're getting closer. So again, we go Simon homepage hamburger, right? And we go curriculum administration, just the same. When we come in, you should see a dashboard that looks like this. Usually when I do this with a group, about 80% of people can see this. If you don't see a page that looks similar to this with at least some boxes, please send me an email. Some people, there's some problem with Simon talking to this. This is Albatross. And I need to get that fixed for you. But you should have at least 4 boxes. If you've got your laptop or later on today, please have a look here. The one I want you to click on is the one with all the heads, the circles and the little people, okay? This is the one I want us to start using much more. So if you don't have any buttons, send me an email and I'll go in and get it fixed. Okay. What you then do is you need to click, you'll get a page that looks a bit like this. Semesters, like there's nothing there for this year yet, so you need to click on the one that says semesters, and this immediately decided to, oh, now it's going to work. See here where it says semesters? You click on that drop-down box and you click last year's semesters. What this gives us is not just the PAT data and the ASA, sorry, that's PAT, and the NAPLAN data. It also gives us teacher judgments, all the stuff that we've got from Simon from the last 12 months, okay? Which gives us a much more complete picture, not just what they did while they were doing an assessment on a particular day, but all their data all pulled together. So we click here and we can get all their data from last year. You click here and you can click your class. So I have picked my chemistry class here, CH033. That's my Year 12 chemistry class coming in. Does that kind of make sense so far to people? Okay, so I've picked that class. This then gives me this graph. This has here, these kids here, they're my high achievers. They have got really good NAPLAN and PAT data, and they've got really good results from their exams, from their classwork. Okay, these kids here, they have worked really hard. Their PAT and their NAPLAN data wasn't that great, but they have got great results anyway. So these kids have worked really hard, and if I hover my mouse over that kid, I can get their name. So I know that this particular student has worked incredibly hard. So when she asks me a question in class, she has already done all the work that she can from the book. She needs my help, right? These ones down here, or potentially, I'm getting more information around my kids. These ones down here, their PAT data, see, they says high achievement, low growth. Their PAT, their NAPLAN data says that they are capable, but their results aren't showing it. Does that make sense to people? So those are the ones that I've been encouraging. Have you used your resources? Are you doing your homework? When they come back in, these are the ones I'm going to be most concerned about. Are they doing their homework? When I've got my 20 kids standing there in front of me, if I don't have time to go through all 20 kids for their homework, which ones am I going to be focusing on for making sure that their homework's done? It's going to be particularly maybe these four. Does that make sense? And then these ones here, I've had a really good look at already. This student here, so this is low achievement, low growth. This one here I already know missed 4 months of school last year. She was overseas. Okay? So she's got great big gaps in her knowledge, and I'm going to need to work with her and check with her on each topic what gaps has she got in her knowledge to help her make the progress that she needs to make. Can you see how that this is different to just looking at this stuff, just the NAPLAN data? Because that tells me what they're able to do. This gives me much more information around where the kids are actually at the moment before I've taught them a single lesson. Okay, and then we can track them over time. But this is a good place to start at the beginning of the year. Okay, so if you can, that's a really simple, very quick thing for us to do. Okay, any questions about that bit? Okay. Okay, Simon Digest, that's just a little newsletter, a very simple thing. I'm moving on to data for parents. You put a lot of work into your learning areas for parents. Yes, I know that. Okay, Simon Digest is going to be an automatically generated email for parents. It summarises what you've put onto learning areas. It'll go out the same day as the Emmanuel newsletter. It should encourage, it's just going to have the numbers pretty much around what they got for assessment tasks. And it will then encourage parents to look onto PAM. It will tell parents, for more information, log into PAM. You don't need to do, I do not want anyone doing any extra work. You do enough work already. It's about telling parents there's new information there on PAM. Go and have a look. Does that make sense to people? Okay? The only thing is, the only problem is if you've said that you're going to do an assessment task or a task was due, and then, you know how sometimes, I don't know, I do it sometimes. I think we probably all do it. And the date's gone past and you haven't marked off that you've collected it. Who's done that? Yeah. Okay. you could potentially get a whole class worth of parent emails saying, oh, it says this class is overdue and my kid says that they've handed it in. So you're just on the day that that's due, and Pete Sass will let us know when that's due. Just have a quick check on your learning areas to make sure that it's all up to date, that you're not going to get parents emailing you that, oh, you've missed something. Is that okay? Okay. So just no extra tasks need to go on. Okay. I'm hoping Pete Sass can make it look prettier than that, and I'll send you an example when it's actually set up. It'll probably be Jamison's one. At the moment it looks slightly ugly, but hopefully it'll encourage parents to look, because if we get more parent involvement, you know, that's got an effect size of 0.42, and anything that's a year's growth in a year, we want over 0.4 for effect size. Okay. Education Perfect is all set up. If you need help with that, please come see me in the library after school. It is an online resource that we have for year 7 to 10. It's got pre and post assessments. It's got online resources. Log in using your school account. It's all done. When our Japanese students start on Tuesday, the system is now set up that it will automatically add them to the class list that they've been added to on Simon. We can't edit the lists though, so if you wanted to add a random kid to your class, you can't do that. Edroller, I just checked about half an hour ago. They still haven't updated the lists yet. I'm hoping that it'll happen this afternoon. They've still got the lists there from early start, which is a bit frustrating, but I'm hoping that that will happen during the day, and I'll give them a call as the day goes on. Around Edrolo, the books are all in the prep area. For those who have hard copy books, please collect them from the lab prep area, because there's a lot of books there. Okay, catch-up assessments. We had a few changes around that last year, because of COVID stuff. All right, the link is still there on Simon from last year. VCE is pretty much the same as last year. It's just going to be Tuesdays, A11. You put the assessments outside Shane's office, and the completed ones will be put outside Shane's office like last year. Okay? And it's important that we all do that, because that's looking after each other, keeping everything consistent and the same. Year 8s, we ran it semester 1, then we took it off for semester 2 because we needed more for year 11s, and no one was coming at the junior school for a while. So with the catch-ups for year 7 8s, we're restarting it for year 8 and 9. Year 7s don't join the process until semester 2. It's run on Wednesdays in D8. One change that we're making this year is that drop-off and collection is going to be in the library. Drop-off was underneath the pigeonholes at Macaulay. Does everyone remember that? You had to put them in a folder there. We're going to make it outside Macaulay Library, and collection outside outside Marg's office at Macaulay Library. Does that make sense to people? It's more of a central point rather than having to walk an extra distance. And then this is my last slide. You've been looking at lots of slides already. Study hall. It still runs in the library after school. Year 7 to 8, they only get merit points for coming on Monday, 3:30 to 4:30. It's in the reading room, supported by Lisa West. They love their biscuits, right? That's what they get. One week I ran out of biscuits. That was not good. They were very upset. You should have seen the senior kids. You would have thought that they had missed a whole meal. It was like there's no lunch today, right? That's what they're now getting, this little COVID-safe packet of biscuits. They're year 9 to 12, Monday to Thursdays, 2:30 to the library. The kids really appreciate any teachers dropping in to offer help. Traditionally, it's been Wednesdays for maths. Do you think we will be continuing that? Yep, fantastic. And so I just wanted to finish with saying thank you to those staff that come along and support our students at Study Hall. Thank you. We will know. You're up.
Hello all. Welcome back to everybody for the year if we haven't seen you so far. Hope you had a nice break. Need a new photo, I think. Photos are coming up. Staff photos are compulsory this year. We're going to track you all down at some point. Just want to give you a crash course on how leave, absenteeism, time in lieu, excursions, all those sort of things are going to work this year. Pretty much all roads are going to lead to EMS 360, which is Excellent. Bye-bye green forms. So the manual process of the green forms is gone. All our applications, our approval process and everything we do will be within EMS 360 and approved by the management team, hopefully in a more timely manner so you know where your applications sit at. Firstly, and I will, once I get through here, I'm going to open up EMS 360 and do a few really quick demos with it. I can see there's already some applications coming through for leave and absence, which is good. It is a really simple system to use, so feel free to just start using it straight away if you've got some dates that are coming in. In essence, all leave and absence applications will go through EMS 360. There's two different types of leave, effectively, that we manage at the school, and the easiest way to explain that is absence is the short notice stuff, the early morning, you get up and you're sick or your child's sick or whatever it may be. Generally not known and generally something that we need to action pretty quickly. In the past, that has been an email to extras. We are asking you to quickly just log into EMS 360, click the absence tab, put your application in. You'll get an automated email back to you to say that that's gone through, so you don't have to, fret about whether I've got it or whatever it needs to happen. The system does boil down really easily on a mobile phone. It does take away a lot of the functionality, like a lot of websites do. Basically, you'll open up EMS 360 and all you'll see is the ability to be able to lodge an absence request. So it should take about the same amount of time as what it takes you to write an email through extras anyway. So we are asking you to do that. If you get stuck with that or you're in a situation where you can't access it, you know that I'm still available via email and staff have my mobile phone number. To make my life a little bit manageable of an evening and so on and so forth, I do ask that we could use the EMS 360 where possible. Leave is our green form process. Again, it's known in advance. It could be a doctor's appointment or whatever you've got going on. That is submitted through EMS 360 and then the management group sits down on a periodic basis, which will be Monday mornings, period 1, where we'll sit down and approve everything that's going through the system and you will see the status of your application change. So that should be a big improvement for our staff. You'll know the status of what you've applied for as opposed to waiting for your green form to come back or whatever you need to do in the past. Time in lieu, Peter touched on time in lieu. Time in lieu for our non-teaching staff has been a thing for a long time. The way we've managed that in the past is that staff would manage their time within an Excel spreadsheet or whatever you're using in the past. The system has the ability to do that for you, and we do ask our non-teaching staff that are doing extra time or whatever you're doing to use the system. It will give management a up-to-date snapshot of their exposure to time in lieu, which will be really handy because they'll be able to come to that staff member and say, I can see we've got a few coming through the system. We probably need to get a few dates in the system to take that. So in effect, for our non-teaching staff, you can put in a time in lieu request about what you've done. Peter, Justin, whomever will approve that in a timely manner. And then you put in another request to say, I'd like to take my day here. So it's a two-step process, but it's really easy. For our teaching staff and everybody else, as Peter said, that it's not quite there yet in terms of the agreement. We are implementing time in lieu for our Term 1, Year 7 and Year 11 camp. We will just manage that and Year 9 immersion. So we will manage that just outside EMS 360 just for the time being, which is not too dissimilar to what I would do for our normal camps and excursions in terms of getting you your day off. So that will be an added process that we will add in. It'll be really simple. We won't quite touch EMS 360 just with that just yet. But you will see that it's activated on EMS there. You can have a bit of a look at it. Excursions. Last year we implemented the excursions through ACE. We are getting there. They're big, complicated things, excursion. There's lots of moving bits. And it's probably the one thing that we can get ourselves in a little bit of strife in terms of our risk assessments if we don't do them. So we really do need to nail the risk assessment side of our excursions a little bit better. I will show you in a minute when I jump into the system. There's a risk tab over the far side which can generate your risk assessment for you. There's a bunch of templates in there of risks that would occur in 99% of the excursions we would go on. Be things like taking a bus, missing student misbehaviour, whatever it would be. And you can just simply click those as identified risks. You can add in your own risk if you're going somewhere specific. And it's really easy. It's a couple of points, and I'll show you in a minute. But we do ask you to have a good look and a good think about your risk assessments when you go on these things. One of the things that Justin and I and Michael will look at is if we've got an excursion application in and there isn't an associated risk assessment, or there hasn't been anything in that, it won't go past that point. We won't be approving that. We just can't. We get ourselves to a point sometimes last year where we would say to someone, yep, you're good to go, and then we get there the day before and there was nothing in that space. We can get ourselves in a bit of strife that way. Effectively what EMS 360 does is once the date goes past of your excursion, the system locks itself and everything is in there, can't be modified, and that's a protection in the system. And if we haven't got anything in there and we get audited, we don't have anything in terms of a risk in that space, and we can't change it from that point. So we need to really make sure that happens. Peter mentioned that we'll be putting some child safe standards into the risk assessment. It'll be quite simply, it'll be a couple of the generic boxes that I will just put in there that we will just choose for every excursion we go on. And it'll be simply as, have we ensured the venue that we're going to meets child safe standards? That'll probably be one of the catch-all boxes, and that's where we probably just put a phone call in and just make sure that we think that the place we're going to is fine. If there's any misgivings about that, we shouldn't be going there anyway. So we do need to tick that box everywhere we go. Any associated documentation you can get around that would be handy. So if we're going to a big venue, they will have these things because they get asked all the time now. So you could get a document and either keep that in your personal possession, and if you're asked for it, you can bring that up, or you can attach it to the excursion. But we do need that, one, to make sure where we're going where we're safe, but two, from an auditing point of view, that we can demonstrate that that is really important to us when we're going off-site. If excursion times are really, really important, and that sounds a bit weird, but we do get excursions and PDs that come in that aren't all inclusive of the time that you need. So an example of that may be you're off to Melbourne for an excursion, and you put the excursion in from 9 till 3, but the bus leaves at 6:30 and comes home at 6:30. I need to know the breadth of that. I need to know all the time you need and all the time at the other end when you come back, because that's what I use to block you out. If that's not correct, and it does happen every so often with leave and all those sort of things, is that a staff member may put an application in and go, oh, I actually just need to go at 7. I'm like, okay, just put it in there, because I literally will take those times to block you and staff out and cancel classes and do all the stuff that I do. So please make sure that's right. The added part of that is that Lucille will use the data within the EMS 360 module to generate your letter for you. Okay, so put as much information into EMS 360 as you can, so there's not 8 million emails going back and forward between Lucille and yourself about what you need in that space. The system's got every little box that you need in there to put the information in there, so that Lucille's got everything you need. So please take the time to put the information in there so we can get that right. With excursions, I get that you might only do 1 or 2 of them a year. So, and you'll completely forget how to do them by the time it comes around. If that's the case, that's fine. Just flick me an email, get a time, pop into the office. It'll take 10 minutes to generate it and get it right, and then away we go, if you want to do that. Conversely, I will be getting some instructional videos and stuff up on Simon to if you wanted to do it yourself, or you're at home, or you can't get a hold of me, or whatever it would be. But I'm more than happy to sit down with you for 10 or 15 minutes to get the initial excursion process right, and then away we go. There's just a bit of information about the approval process. So every Monday morning, period 1, Peter, myself, Michael and Justin will be catching up to go through EMS 360 and approve everything. So please get everything in at that point. It doesn't mean that you can't submit stuff either side of that. Peter will be looking at the leave applications on a daily basis like he normally does. But it would be handy if we can get as much information in the system for that Monday meeting so that we can make informed decisions on leave, absence, time in lieu applications and whatever it would be. So please get that stuff in late in the week or early on Monday morning so that the management group can get everything ticked off. Staff, just before I go into that one, I will just open up EMS 360. So EMS 360 can easily, it's an external website, so you don't need to go through Simon to access it, but if you want to, you can. It's under staff forms, and over here, EMS 360. Now I'm going to, you log on, so all new staff will have your account set up within EMS 360. It's quite simply your work email address. For the first time you use it, press request password here to set up like you would any other digital platform. I am just going to log on here. Yeah. I'm going to log on here as my personal email, just so that you can see, hopefully it works. Happy days. So this is what you'll see when you get into EMS 360. There's a snapshot of everything that you've got approved and everything that's coming up, so that'll be handy once we start populating things within the system. Simply to lodge a leave and absence application, My EMS, leave and absence, and you'll get here. So again, absence, short notice stuff, you know, night before, morning of, whatever it would be. You'll only have two options there of leave, and generally it's you're sick or it's family carers leave, generally. If it's something outside that, just let me know. But generally, you've got your two options there. Leave is here. That one, there'll be a bunch of other options in there. There'll be compassionate leave and jury service and all that sort of jazz in that space. You will see that once you start putting them in, simple little traffic light system over here. So that'll tell you the status of your application, which is handy. So that's getting away from the green form system and not sure where that application was at. So you will know that. These will all be accompanied by automated generated emails in the background anyway. So you'll also get that once management approve it. And some information about what's going on. So quite simply, you just add leave over here and submit it. This will be orange and until it's approved when it goes green. For those staff that are using time in lieu, this little tab here, it's called Tylo. This is what we'll be using for time in lieu. You can see this handy little calculator up the top here. So as you're submitting your applications and they're approved and away you go, that will tell you the status of how many hours you have up and available to take. So that'll be really handy rather than managing Excel spreadsheets and so on and so forth. Quite simply, you put in a time in lieu request here, and if you want to take some time, you press this little button here. Put that in. I'd like to take, you know, the 24th of March off to eat into my time in lieu, thanks. Then we'll submit that, and it'll come back through to management. So very, very easy to manage the time in lieu for our staff. Don't worry about the other two there. Activities, camps and excursions. That's this little part here. I just wanted to just show staff the sort of two-step process of excursions, just to give you a crash course. We sort of haven't really done this in front of our staff since we put it in. So you add your ACE over here, and it'll give you your initial details. You put your initial details in there, get your times right, select your category of what you're doing. Your ACE approver is generally Justin. There's a bunch of names in there, but it will generally be in under Justin's name. Staff leader, mobile phone number, so on and so forth. Description, please put information in here. This would be handy for Lucille to get the information around your letter and what you're doing and so on and so forth. And we always need the educational purpose and assessment. It does require a file type to be attached to every excursion we do. Just click student list down the bottom, but you do need to attach something. Once you submit, comes up like this. You simply pop back in here, and this is the second step we need you to do. This is probably where we were falling over a little bit last year. Press the little pencil, and you've got a bunch of tabs up the top here. We're not using the full functionality in the system at the moment, so don't fret. We don't need too much in around cost and transport, those sort of things just yet. We can use those at some point. The important one is this fella here, risk. This is the one we need our information in. Simply add a risk, drop-down box, generic risks. You'll find that you'll probably choose 8 or 9 of them on every excursion you do. very generic stuff, you know, transport on the bus, emergency medical episodes, slips, trips and falls, so on and so forth. That will populate a good 80% of most of our risk assessments. So risk assessments are a bit of a pain in the bum, but this should make it nice and easy for you. If you want to put in a risk yourself that's unique to what you're doing, you simply just bypass that, put some information in about the risk that you're identifying where you're going, some controls that you're going to put in place to minimise that risk, a couple of drop-down boxes and save. Simple as that. We think most excursions should have about 8 to 10 of those. 8 of them should be in your generic stuff. There should be a couple of things around unique risks to where you're going, generally. So again, I can help you out with that stuff. But that is the important tab that we want you to use. This fella here, if you could. Any questions on EMS 360? If you've got them, come and see me. If you're not quite sure how everything's going, please come and see me. I'll quickly just run over a few extra things that I look after. Staff unavailability and the ability not to be able to do an extra. Always, whenever we get a new timetable, the first 2 weeks, our unavailabilities or our ends within the timetable aren't quite right. My assumption that if you've got, if there's nothing in a period box or a yard duty box, I make an assumption that I can use you at that point. It is easier to have the conversation about getting ends and U's in your timetable if you absolutely need them, because it is difficult once we set extras. Once it goes out, you all scatter and run off into your rooms. It's difficult to be able to pick that up. So the assumption I make when you look at your timetable is that if it's blank and there's nothing in it, that I can give you something for that day. Teacher loads, you should have all had your load by now. If you're under allotted, it creates a space for an extra without count. So effectively, if you're one under, you can do that one extra before we start chipping into your full-time load, if that sort of makes sense for you. Staff can take their under allotment plus one extra per fortnightly cycle. So every 2 weeks, the little system just counts. This year, you're starting at a maximum of 10 over a year, 10 counted extras. Last year, that was 14. If the EA comes in like it's proposed, that number is getting significantly lower over the next couple of years. Just be mindful that that's 10 counted extras, so that's not inclusive of in-lieux and all that sort of stuff when camps and excursions and all that sort of thing roll in. So, but you can do a maximum of 10. If you're unsure of your load, it's really easy to look at. So just see James, myself, Justin's got access to all those sort of things. If you're not sure where your load's sitting, whether you're under, whatever it would be, or if you have a bunch of circumstances that you need to let management know that you may not be able to do a certain aspect of what's happening across the school, maybe a particular yard duty is difficult to get to or whatever it would be, please let us know, because we've got a document where we just track that sort of stuff. Again, if we don't know, I can't help you. So please reach out with that sort of stuff. Extras, for those staff that are returning, it's exactly the same as last year. For new staff, I have shown you that, but I'm assuming that probably, would have flown out of your head by now with so much stuff going through. So if you're not sure, there will be someone in your office that knows how to use these things, but there's no change there. Practical component of extras is really important. With the reduction in staff being able to take an extra from 14 to 10, and as that number becomes lower and lower and lower, the ability for me to put someone within your classroom that is qualified within that space will get harder and harder and harder. We do our best. I think we do quite well of getting teachers within the space that are within those faculties. But if you need to leave prac, please let me know. What gets really difficult for me when the extras start to pile up a little bit is when I set an extra. I don't look at the extras that are left, and I can't look at that because there could be 50 or 60 or 70 sometimes across a day. I make an assumption that anyone in this room can take your class, and that's the only assumption we can make. If you absolutely need prac within your classroom, please just let me know prior. I'll have a look and see what I can do. Always the caveat is if you're going to leave it, we still need a theory option just in case our best laid plans get pulled out from under us. We have had examples where I've put a prac teacher in and that prac teacher is also unavailable on that day, and then we're scrambling and away we go. Please let us know, and we can help out from there. My contact details are there. Give me a buzz. We're here to help. Hopefully the EMS 360 streamlines our process and makes things a little bit easier. I think it will. If you're struggling with any of that, just pop into the office. I'm always available, and we'll go from there. Thanks. Before Jimmy.
I'm doing this for you, Robbie, because I know how your C's up. And we will be out of here by 25 past as well. If you can try and hold out. If you need to go to the loo, well, so be it. But we've got about 18 minutes left.
Some are gone, but yep, I'll take it.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Come on, Walshy. Yeah. Good morning, everybody. To the new staff, my name's James, and I'm the timetabler here. So if you've got any issues or anything, please let me know. And how you can do that is via this email, timetabler@Emmanuel. Please email that one, not James Byrne. All right. We try and keep all the timetable information separate in that account. And it's in your best interest for that. If I'm not here, it can still be actioned and things like that. So please do that. With regards to yard duties for this year, there is going to be a change, and these will now be handled by the daily organiser, so Jace, who was just speaking. So with regards to any of that yard duty info, please see Jace, and there'll be some info coming out about that. And there is a link there to the teaching allotments as well, as this is going to be sent out. Subject changes, the only major thing that people probably need to know is students at the end of last year had an opportunity to change their subjects, and basically that window is now closed at the start of the year. We did the same thing last year as well. There is the possibility of the odd VCE student changing. Sometimes when the kids go off to Year 11 retreat, they have a premonition, they come back and they want to be a doctor. So that has happened in the past. This is at the discretion of Shane Smith. Okay, so these classes, if that is the case, so they have a meeting with Shane and fill out the paperwork, etc. Shane has a Google Doc, so that's how you'll be informed of that. Okay, so essentially your class lists, I did send out an email there last week. We're having a bit of fun with Simon. I think they're under the pump with Pam and all the changes if you're a parent, that type of thing. So that's why that's a little bit slow. That's external to us. So the lists I sent out last week are the most accurate ones we have. So any changes will be at VCE level, and they'll be under basically Shane's control. So everything else is fine. Students have an opportunity to change their subjects late in term 2 for next semester. Okay, and that'll be for years 8 and up there. All right, we have very few changes, but we do give them a little bit of an opportunity there. Okay. And that's it from me. If you've got any questions, please email Timetabler. Thanks.
Thanks, James. Always like to break out the new Gazman top in the first staff meeting. And, it is. I don't know whether it's going to be a polo or a short sleeve, sort of tailored, or a long sleeve. But my kids got phones and watches, and I get the parcel. Oh, what's this? And I just hope that where's Richie? Richie here? Yeah. I just hope that Helen bought you the salmon and blue. And all right. All right. Back to some seriousness. I want to. This is the last presentation, by the way, and Shimon will be speaking for 5 minutes as well during this. And I want to take it back to what Claire was saying at the start, and that's about the positive relationships that we form with students. And when you've been teaching for 25 years, and you have so many good interactions with students, and we mean a lot. And as you can see, you can read some of the things there. The troublemaker you mentored, and they're raising two smart, loving children of their own. That sort of business. So we always have to think positive. And that motto there, the influence of a good teacher can never be erased. And I do want to give you a story of a student I had, and it was 20 years ago. They were in my Year 11 outdoor ed class. And they would fall asleep at the desk. They rarely did prac, and he was a muso. He became a very good musician, by the way. And the other students sort of picked up on that, and he was very passionate about rock and roll. And he would he'd sort of say, get a couple of them, the Mills boys, Mills twins, Mick, remember them? Yeah. Yes, so they were the clientele I was teaching, but they'd sort of get stuck into Ryan was his name. And I defended him because my inroad with him was actually talking about rock and roll, because I love AC/DC and all those sorts of bands. And so he's copying a little bit, and I defend it. But he ended up failing Unit 1 and 2 outdoor and environmental. So it's the first ever. Who fails it? But he did. Anyway. But I met him it was actually at the Warrnambool Hotel. It was about 10 years ago, and he became a very successful in a rock band, him and his brother. And we had a fantastic chat, and he said, I actually really liked your classes. I was tired because we were in the garage playing rock, till 1, 2 o'clock, and sometimes I was hungover. And so, I guess, he's the thing he took out of outdoor ed was having a cigarette on the Merri. That's probably what his look back on that was, as he told me. But look, it was a great conversation, and although I didn't really contribute to him, his musical talent, it was just a good relationship builder. But here he is there. He's on the right there, Ryan O'Keefe. That's his brother Joel. Joel has got the unhinged look down pat, and Billy Idol would be very proud. But Airborne, they're a rock band, and I jumped on and listened to some of them. It is fantastic. It really is. I'm not just saying that. If you're into sort of AC, it's a mix between AC/DC, I think Motorhead, and Twisted Sister. I read. So. And with hits of, I think their last album was Runnin' Wild, and it was just so good that he'd found his feet and was successful, and he said that that he's really enjoying life, and he was, but he did sort of struggle at those times, and that fist pump there it's hilarious because he said, one thing I didn't tell you was that how I used to bring a Coke bottle to class every now and again. Well, it wasn't just Coke. so there you go. But and then so it was really good. But I hope that you have experiences with your students. Hopefully in the way that you mould them in your subjects, whether they it's going to do science at uni or go out work on the farm and have connections with your students. And back to some seriousness there, that some of the qualities of good teaching, skills in communication, the listening, the collaboration, adaptability, empathy, and I had a lot of patience with Ryan because he was actually doing nothing in class, but he actually said, I really actually quite liked your class, so I didn't mind some of your prac as well. And And there's other characteristics of effective teaching there, including engaging classroom presence, and that real-world learning. Some of the feedback that comes back is about where does this fit into my life now or in the future, and that lifelong love of learning. Just on some operations there's our T&L team. So Simone, who did a great presentation there, is working wonders with everything that she's doing. Donna's joining us as the VC coordinator, and Glenn, who's wearing quite a few hats, he is on our T&L team as a director of 9 at Rice. Obviously work with James, Jason, diversity leaders, Shimon and Rachel, Andrea Lane with intervention, and Pete Sass, and Pete's going to be great coming into that space of Simon, so that we can distribute the leadership there and not just have 1 or 2 people sort of know the functions of Simon. There's our KLA leaders, Tash, Pete, Marg in the library, Megan, Susie, Catherine, Ryan, Ben, Walsh, Rebecca, Bridget, Richard, Julia and Ben. So they're doing great things for their faculties. So there's our overarching priority that's on all the meeting links, and you can read it there. Informed by educational research, student needs, our learning and teaching demands a consistent pedagogical approach. The components we expect to see in any learning environment are clear and articulated. And we've done a lot of work to sort of, tell staff, what that means. What are some of the things that we do as shared practice that we can hang our hat on, having a consistent approach to our teaching, but also, bring back to they remember teacher quirks, these students, and to have your own personality as well and your own style, not to be robotic. So kids really love diversity in the staff, and they remember things. The usual learning and teaching systems there. The conferences are on the calendar. They're going to be both face-to-face and online. And as Peter has mentioned, there's no more time after school that isn't compensated. So I think it's 4 till 7 on the Wednesday night, Thursdays 9 till 1, then you go home. In fact, you go to holidays. So we'll get information about how that works. Interim report dates are on the calendar. Simone's already mentioned about NAPLAN, PAT testing. It's really going to put us under the pump first term. The PLC sessions Michael mentioned, we really want staff to show leadership in expressing interest in running a session. We're talking voluntary sessions twice a term. If we get more, we might run some more. It's great to see this. I pitched this to the KLA leaders last week, and so it's great to see that there's already an expression of interest from Tash about visual literacy. It looks fantastic. PLPs, and I'd like to call up Shimon to speak for a few minutes, and I might drive the computer while you're doing that.
Okay, good morning everybody. Just a few things. In true English teacher style, I'm starting off with a rhetorical question, but did you know that there's over 911,000 students Australia-wide with a diagnosed disability? That's probably, there's still a lot of a cohort that may not be diagnosed already, so we're pushing up towards the 1 million mark across Australia. Under the Disability Discrimination Act, which is known as DDA, and the Disability Standards for Education, we have a legal professional responsibility to meet the needs of all learners. When we think about our diverse learners and all the adjustments that we make, and we do make a lot of them across the school, it's not just about ticking boxes so we meet all the needs of NCCD purposes. It's most importantly about giving these students an opportunity to access a curriculum in a fair and equitable way. I've just put up some data there. This is just some distribution data across Australia, and I'll probably go more into that on our Learning Diversity Day, what's applicable for Emmanuel in particular. But as you can see, the different levels, cognitive, physical, sensory, social, emotional, cognitive, across Australia, nearly 55% are into that category, and then the next highest category is social, emotional, and those figures do sort of reflect our own schools here and where the needs are as well. The operations, the learning diversity team, particularly for the new staff, we do have a new co-learning coordinator, Rachel Carter, that's joined the team, and myself still here. And then we've got Andrea Lane in interventions and also doing assessments, taking over from Gail Nicholson. So she'll be great in that area. The learning diversity support worker, Leonie, is sort of the heartbeat of our office, keeps things running smoothly. And then we have a whole learning diversity assistant team. We sort of have a junior team and a senior team. So diversity in our school, it works out, we're just about at that 20% mark of our student population that has diverse needs here. So it is quite a lot of students. NCCD funding, it works sort of a year behind. So our incoming students this year, and we have got an increase, quite an increase at year 7 level, we don't get that funding until next year. So that does have some impact on staffing and how many LDAs we can employ and all those sorts of things. So what it boils down to, it's just paramount that we all have good inclusive practice happening in our classrooms, because sometimes there won't be an LDA available to support, and we'll work with the T&L team throughout the year and just try and support staff in what that looks like and give you tips all along the way to help. It also highlights Peter's message last Friday, and he was talking about the average study score, and we're at 29, and we really, he wants to see a goal of trying to push that forward if we can. That really fits in with our diverse learners as well, because they do have an impact on that study score too. So if we've got best inclusive practice happening, that'll no doubt have a positive effect on that average study score moving forward. Justin, I'm not good sometimes of operating both, but I have put a link on, we've got a snapshot, a visual snapshot of students in their homerooms that are on PLPs. It's currently at 7 to 9 students on that, but Rachel and I haven't had a chance to catch up yet, but probably we'll be looking at putting the whole school of PLPs on there. Just a lot easier. You can see where all the substantials and extensives are in one visual document. And of course, you've got all the PLPs in our PLP drive where you can go and see who's there as well. So if you want to go to that link, I've actually put a link on Simon for a couple of weeks under staff messages, but in future, under learning diversity on the Simon homepage, and we've got to tidy this up a bit, there's too much there, but on the bottom there, you can click on that, Justin, yep. Thanks. I see a lot of people have already been on and using it, so that's great, but got everything listed there. It's an easy snapshot for you, labelled the substantial and extensive students so you really see where those highest needs are. Colour-coded, so that's for year 7, 8 and 9 at the moment, but I'm sure Rachel will be, once she finds her feet, we'll have a look at perhaps putting the whole school on there for everybody. And then the PLPs, particularly for those new students, shared drives, and it's under personal learning plans, and they're all in year levels. Yep, so you can just click in there and all students are in there. Yep, and then you just can click on and you'll be able to see all the different components of the personal learning plan, but particularly for you, the strategies. What's the student's strengths, interests, help to build that rapport with the student, and then what strategies do they need in order to support them in the classroom, just to give you some tips. Thanks, Justin. It's just a couple of more things. So we've looked at the PLPs. The PLP learning goals, so we ask that all teaching staff create learning goals in your subject areas where the students, if they've got a need in your particular subject as well, that you need to create some learning goals for them. It's hard to do that when, you know, we're getting whole new cohorts in, so we always give staff sort of about that 5-week, 6-week mark. We'll be asked to have them completed. I've got they're due at the start of week 6 because we've got a bit of a process after that, and Leonie has to. It's a big job to send them out to parents, so we've sort of got to make sure they're all in by that stage. But we just ask the first few weeks, get to know the kids, what's their strengths in the classroom, are the PLPs looking right? We're really reliable. We can get all the information together when they first come in, but what we really need to do moving forward is moderate them more, and that's conversations with teaching staff teaching staff and learning diversity assistants, and also involving the student in some of that as well. They're a great resource. They will tell you what's working for them and what's not. So we may need to have to update those PLPs. And sometimes I can see PLPs rolling along over the couple of years, but they might not be up to date. And the only people that can really help us with that's the student, the parents, and teachers and learning diversity staff. So we really want to get your input if things aren't looking right or need updating. And we're happy to do that. When setting learning goals, there should always be some of those goals called SMART goals. We did some PD on this last year, but we'll look at running a couple of sessions again leading up to that 6-week mark. But SMART goals, for those that may not have heard that before, they're specific, measurable, achievable, realistic and timely. And there's a pattern of how you can sort of set those goals up. So we'll run some voluntary PD. If that's something that you'd like to come along to support you with that, we'll make sure we make ourselves available. Learning goals evaluation. We're really wanting to get 100% strike rate on this. Thank you so much to the staff that took the time and did do their learning goal evaluations at the end of the semester. I do have those conversations with parents. They're looking at seeing, you know, what has my child achieved? Have they achieved that goal? Where are they at? Are they still trying to build skills in a particular area? So we're just asking if staff could please, just as part of our professional practice at the end of semester 1, that the evaluations are all completed with that. So that's about it there. The learning diversity assistants. So do you want to have a look on Simon again? There's a timetable, particularly in new staff that won't know, on Simon again homepage under learning diversity. And it is LDA master timetable. And you'll be able to see who's allocated where. So the seniors, I think, are done, and the juniors will be finalised this afternoon. We are putting in those LDAs where the highest needs are. That's what we need to do, and we've got to utilise our staff smartly there. But an area what we feel we could trial is if you feel you don't need an LDA with you in the classroom and it can help someone else elsewhere, we've just put in a little line needed. And this is thanks to Ryan Fitzgibbon with his smart Excel spreadsheet skills. You can untick if you're that teacher and it'll highlight it to say that they're not needed there. So, or you can go back, it might be just a lesson that they're not needed, and then you can go back and re-tick that. So then we ask if staff are needing support and they want to put in a request for that. We created another little tab at the bottom of that document. You can go in and fill your details out, and that can alert the LDA, okay, well, someone's needing help in that particular area, so they can move to that area then too. Thank you. So I think we're nearly there. And just the other thing is the bottom of the timetable. So we've got support. Student support requests. That's just on Simon. We'll have to go again. Sorry, Justin. If you feel you're watching the student and you're doing all the things, you know, good inclusive practices happening, quality differentiated teaching practice, and you've just got a few concerns about a student and you feel something needs following up, we're just asking if you could. Of course, you can still have discussions with us coordinators. Andrea's around as well. She's a great resource. If you're not sure what to do or need some tips, just touch base with us. But if you feel like, no, I think there's something going on here and we need some further investigation, we go to Simon homepage again, and under Learning Diversity, there's a student report request and there's a Google form. Doesn't take too long. We tried to simplify that as much as possible, and you can go and fill that out. And then that comes to our department, and there's a process that we go through. We meet as a team, we discuss the student, we look at the data, we look at the feedback, and then we go from there whether need to go to Andrea, do some more testing, need to get some intervention happening in the classroom for that student. And just lastly, part part of our quality assurance, there's a reflection survey that we have to put out to staff in term 1. So that's going to be coming out the next couple of weeks, just to have a look at our processes here and see what we're doing well, what the needs are moving forward. So we're just going to kindly ask if you could complete that for us, and then we can compare. We've got the data from the start of last year. So once we get the data from this year, we can marry all of that up and have a look moving forward to make some plans for our own team's action plan. And lastly, thank you very much for everything you do for our students. It's a huge job. We're busy enough as it is, leave alone having to worry about all this other inclusive practice and getting skilled up in lots of different areas. So we really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Shimon, for all that. So buckle in for a minute and a half of finalising things. So Calais meeting similarities, team leaders for all subjects, setting up Google Classrooms, book list items. So all your KLAs will go through that. We went through, we did some workshops on feedback last year. So we give succinct feedback directed to students on those 3 things there. So we'll send this out later so you can have a look there. So very wary of the time. Our shared practice, our teacher charter, that's available on Simon Links. We also have our academic handbook and shared practices with all the links there as well. So that a lot of work has gone into that. Please mark roles correctly and on time. And also what Steve was saying last week, the 1%ers on time, tidy rooms. Please don't let kids go early because it upsets consistency. A bit about strategic direction, where we base a lot on evidence-based and high-impact teaching strategy. So we want evidence to back up what we're pitching to staff. Literacy, so you might have heard of ILSI, that's improvement of literacy in the secondary years. So that's a 3rd year. Catherine Ryan will be leading that. ICT committee will continue on, and that's about looking at workflow and also the SAMA model. And we're going to audit, develop assessments, consolidate our feedback, and that obviously enhances collective teacher efficacy, which is the highest effect size. Consolidate our feedback. Pivot surveys will continue there. We have a great peer feedback form that's available on Simon. You'll hear more about sort of trying to get into other people's classes and open up classrooms and giving feedback there. Pivot. Most of you know what Pivot is. I think we went through it with new staff as well, so you can have a read of that. Getting feed smacked. So I don't promote violence in any way, but we're all immune to Rocky being punched. So just a little bit about that, because it came up in our curriculum meeting last year about the way we interpret things and react. So there's a great article there about handling unexpected negative feedback as a teacher. So that might be feedback during class from a student. But it's also about how we work on our mental models, and that's how we're formed, our growing up, what we've been taught, our influences, maybe genetics even. And that's also about everything that we're presenting now and how you feel about it, and whether you feel as though you're being talked to or told what to do. It's not the case. What our whole goal is to actually bring things out in the open and for you to engage with them. Lastly, learning intention success criteria. So really trying to get them embedded into classes. That doesn't mean you go into the classes and just like a robot and state the learning intention. You try and do your hook activity for students. But if we're saying to parents that we actually have an intention for every class, we do a recap at the end of classes, then we need staff to be sort of doing that, because it's a high impact 0.8, and so there's a link there also if you're thinking, well, what's this learning intention success criteria? It's been around for a few years now, but they do try and keep students on track, and that's it. So hope you can celebrate your successes. I appreciate the fact that there's been a lot of information given, especially to new staff. They had another day of it, so it's a lot of information, but it's a good start. It would be great to have more days to prepare. We've got students tomorrow. And Peter did mention I'm off to Ireland in a couple of months. Yeah, I know. It's 2 weeks away. So. So we must strive to do ordinary things extraordinarily well. We should be shining lamps, giving light to all around us, from quotes from Catherine McCauley there. There's the meeting schedule. Claire, do you want to... Has anyone got any announcements or questions or anecdotes?
Bevo just flicked an email. Anybody that's parked on the grass around the school, could you move your car? He's cutting all the grass to make it look spiffy for tomorrow. You get a chance. And for the trainees hang around after the meeting, I just got to run them live on things.
And just quickly, 5-minute break, and then people that are at 9 at Rice, please, teachers could just come back in here. Thank you.
That's the itinerary for the rest of the day. Thanks very much, and enjoy the rest of your day.